to the LaLanne Pass It On podcast, where we talk to individuals who are passing on Jack LaLanne's message of health and fitness to impact the world. It is Greg Justice with you today, along with my co-host, Elaine LaLanne. How are you today, Elaine?
Oh, I'm fine, and I'm excited about our guest today, and you're going to tell us all about him.
Our guest today is a visionary leader who's been instrumental in the development of the health and fitness industry for more than 50 years. Yes, you heard that right, 50 years. He is the innovator of the personal training movement with Hollywood Studios, as he created and operated the first corporate and celebrity private training program and facility on the lot at Paramount Pictures. He also developed and managed the Sony Pictures Athletic Club, which was the first new construction of a fitness facility built on a studio lot. He was the first fitness editor for ABC's Good Morning America and co-starred in the Workout with Weights video with Jane Fonda. He is the past executive director of the California Governor's Council on Physical Fitness and Sports, and has appeared on many television shows and been featured in numerous magazines. It is our pleasure to welcome to the show, Dan Isaacson.
Hey, great to be here. Hi, Lala.
It's so great to have Dan. And Dan, you and Lala have known each other for many years. Elaine, before I asked Dan the first question, tell us a little bit about your connection with Dan.
Well, Jack was on the Governor's Council of Physical Fitness, and Dan was also on the council. And I'll let Dan tell some of the stories about Jack, because Jack was one of these things that people that wanted to make people laugh. And so Dan will know some of the stories about making people laugh. Everybody was very, at the council, you know, they'd get up and tell their story about fitness, and then they would be very sedate, and then Jack would come along, and I'll let Dan tell a story where he pounded his hand.
Oh, yeah. I remember that day very well.
Dan, you tell that story.
We can start with that story, and then I'll start asking you questions. Tell us that story, Dan.
Sure. I love that story because meeting Jack and Elaine was a big thing for me. And meeting Jack to begin with. And I realized in one of our first meetings when he was there, and as Lala said, everyone was getting ready, poking around for the meeting, etc. And Jack finally came up to the podium, slams his hands on the podium, says, "My God, sit up and tighten your abs. Look up. You're supposed to be the best people in California." And I mean, everybody shook up, straightened their shoulders, smiled, and ready to go. And the other story, when I first met Jack,
Jack said, "Fitness people, you put your shoulders back."
That's right, the fitness people. Look the part.
Tuck in your tummies.
Right. A couple other quick Jack-isms, so to speak, is when I first met Jack, he shook my hand firmly. I said, "Such an honor to meet you, sir." And he goes, "What do you want to tell me that I don't want to know?" And I thought, wow, what does he know that I don't know? And then he started laughing. He goes, "Oh, come on. Everybody's got some skeletons in the closet. Loosen up." And
you tell that story in Pride and Discipline. Our book.
Yeah, I have so many from him because he's meant so much to all of us. But and he was not a respecter of persons. I mean, you were all the same. I remember we were waiting for Arnold one day and asked me, because I was executive director at that moment in time, and he poked me. He said, "Where is the big oaf? We got to get going here." I said, "Big oaf? I don't think you want to call Arnold the big oaf." But Jack was just wonderfully Jack. And without Elaine, the backbone of Jack, we wouldn't be here today in terms of our fitness world. So that would be my opening statement. And I'm sticking to it.
That's awesome. Hey, well, I tell you what, let's roll back.
Let's explain Arnold. Arnold was you were the executive director after John Cates, but then Arnold was the What'd you
He was,
call
he
it?
was called he was the chair. And Arnold,
Yeah.
quite frankly, God bless him, he really made it happen. Without Arnold Schwarzenegger, we wouldn't have a California Governor's Council. And then, of course, being
And
governor.
he traveled all over in his
Oh,
own
yeah.
plane.
What a great man of fitness and all
Yeah,
these, so absolutely.
his own plane, he went a lot of the cities and spoke for fitness. It was wonderful. Yeah, go ahead. I didn't mean to butt in.
No, are you kidding?
Oh,
This is your show, Elaine.
of course.
I remember Jack said, my wife likes to run and run up my bills. Run
No,
up at the mouth, rather.
Jack and Arnold were really, really mentors for all of us. No, due respect, and
No doubt about it. No doubt about it.
honored to be part of it.
Well, hey, Dan, let's kind of roll back the clock and talk a little bit about where you came from and how you ascended to become the trainer of the stars in Hollywood. Tell us a little bit about your history.
Okay, well, it starts in Quincy, Illinois. I was born and raised there, small town, the Mississippi River. My dad was in the trucking business, so we grew up very rural. I didn't have indoor plumbing until I was 7, so it was that rural, one-room schoolhouse. But that was a wonderful time. We had a wonderful, wonderful family. You know, we had out in the farm area, so it was ponies and hiking and running around, biking. I had one friend that ran the apple orchard, so I'd bike over to his house or ride my pony over, and we connected from that moment on. Took me to Highland Riverside School when it was during the integration, which was great, and we had all these wonderful African American friends, which I'm still today very good friends with in Quincy, which is great. And then on to high school, became the Most Improved Player Award, which is a big dot for me. On to Western University, which is interesting enough. John Cates, who was the director of the council, as Elaine mentioned, we went to Western as well. We're the only school that still uses and can use the term leathernecks. Went on to graduate school, University of Illinois, got out. My first job was back in Quincy, which was with a swimmer that we took to the Olympics in 1976. She made it the youngest girl on the team, and Nicole Kramer, amazing story. She made it all the way to the finals of the 800-meter freestyle. And I was the man covering that at the Olympics that time. And it kind of opened up my world to the world of fitness and sports. Then I was hired as one of the owners of a 60,000 square foot facility downtown Denver, which we sold later on. Great group, innovative. We were the first to use computers for front desk check-in. Great team of 5 people. And then on, John Denver, the late singer, introduced me to developers in Aspen Snowmass. I we formed my own company, got married to Kim. And then at that moment in time, met John Travolta there while I was the athletic consultant, sports consultant for the Snowmass Club, Jim Light and Jim Chafin. And sure enough, he asked me to train him for the movie Staying Alive. So that's really what did it. I went to do the movie with Stallone, who was directing, and John. The movie came out, and there was such a craze of his transformation that I began to get calls. So the first call I got was from a man named David Geffen, who is iconic in history of Hollywood, very, very successful. And he's gone on to do many, many great things in our community. But he called and he said, I'm David Geffen. And he said, saw the movie, I want to do this. Can you be here Monday? And I said, sure, I don't really do this, because I was headed back to Aspen. And he said, oh, no, you don't understand who I am. I'm David Geffen. And that taught me a lot about Hollywood, and that's what really started. And then from then on, I was training many of the people you're seeing here. From then on, it was next to me was Mickey Rourke with 9.5 Weeks, which was another weight loss program. On to the movie Perfect in 1985 with Jamie Lee Curtis and John, which is all about the fitness industry boom. And then on to years with Billy Crystal, Chevy Chase, Robin Williams, Johnny Depp, Jane Fonda for a movie called The Morning After, Clint Black, the recording star in country music, Tony Orlando, the great Tony Orlando, who really was the first man to welcome home our vets in '73. And that's enough of my talk. That's how I got started.
Hey, and in fact, maybe a little shout out to Tony. Didn't he just recently retire?
He did. I was at his retirement in Vegas. What a wonderful man. He's what a icon for our
a lot younger then.
Weren't we all?
Yeah. The picture there with Ali is an interesting one. We did the fight weigh-in for the Muhammad Ali and Lal Alzado fight at Mile High Stadium.
Mhm.
And Ali was really quite, Billy Crystal was very close to Ali, as you know. And what a great man. He led people out in the city of Denver walking around. I mean, they just thronged around him. We got in an elevator to go up to the fourth floor to do this weigh-in, or the sixth floor rather. And when he got in the elevator, he didn't say a word. Didn't say a word. He got out of the elevator, it started up again. He was masterful. What a blessing to be with all these people. Jack, Ali, Jane, Billy.
And
Well, I've been blessed, and as Elaine knows, I believe that God gives us dots in life, and we're called
absolutely.
to connect them. And Jack was always a great man to thank God and his every time as his Elaine, and that means a lot to me.
Yes.
Well,
Well, and here was a big jump in your career as well, doing the video with Jane Fonda.
yeah,
Tell us a little bit about that experience.
well, that experience was great. I did a movie called The Morning After, which she had to play the part of an alcoholic. So she came to me to increase strength, muscular strength. So she had a sinewy look and then have to really cut down on any weight loss, so to speak. So we just increased her muscle mass to a point where it was really, a very, very lean look was her look for that movie. And that's how we got together. And then she asked me to do this. Now, this was the very first workout with weights for her clientele.
Mhm.
As you know, these videos where she would sell many out front of the gate. So I was the first man that really co-starred. I think I was the only person to co-star with her on a workout video.
Mhm.
And he was great, and she was amazing.
What year was that?
That would be 1987 when it came out. When I met Jane, it was funny because she came in. We always did a group. We had a routine of where we would do a pre-evaluation with everyone, even though who they were. When she came, I didn't know really what I was supposed to do to pre-evaluate her fitness level. So we just were talking about abdominal work, and I said, "Well, how many abdominal pieces? How many exercise? How many counts can you do? How many reps can you do?" And she said, "Oh, Dan, I can do this all day long."
That's funny. And then, of course, your good friend and longtime client of more than 30 years, Billy Crystal. You worked with him through City Slickers and I'm sure several other of his movies.
And you're still friends today, right?
Oh, yes, very good friends. We text back and forth. That was 35 years from 1985 on. The movie was Running Scared. It
Mhm.
was, they played two police. He and Gregory Hines, great movie that launched really a number of things that he did. It was two cops in Chicago. They were the best. I wish they had time to do a number of films, but didn't work out that way. But that started it all. And I went on to do everything that Billy did. He did 9 times as a host for the Academy Awards. Everything he did, I was there working with him.
Yeah.
And then, of course, with some of the top bodybuilders and boxing
There's
celebrities.
John Cates. Look how young John
Yes.
Cates is.
Yes, so all three of those heavily involved in the California Governor's Fitness Program and Council, I should say, and
Yes.
worked together closely on that program. And tell us a little bit about your experience there, and then with Oscar de la Hoya.
Yeah, I don't know if you have the picture of with John Cates when we were doing his send off, so to speak. That's with Governor Pete Wilson, myself, and Arnold. And I thought we had a picture of John Cates. He was a great guy. I mean, he started it all with Arnold. And Arnold, of course, we forget was George Bush Sr. got him involved with the President's Council initially. And then when he came back to California, he's the one that started with Governor Wilson. Us, Oscar de la Hoya came to one of our events. And that council did everything, didn't they, Lala? I mean,
Yeah, right. They had a great American workout and on the White House when George Bush was president, and they had this great big workout on the lawn of the White House.
yeah.
It was quite an affair.
And Arnold did a lot of things for youth fitness, which he still does today.
Yes.
And we had amazing people. Remember all the gold medalists we had? We had the Nissen, was it George Nissen that created the trampoline? I mean, every other person in that room had a resume that was amazing in our field.
Absolutely.
We don't hear too much about the governor's council or the president's council, nor the governor's council, but they do great work, and they're always out there working, but they don't get the publicity like they used to,
Well, there's times, and we'll talk about it a little bit later in this interview, I'm sure, but there are times in our field that things come together. Obviously, Jack and what Elaine did and Lala did in the 50s and 60s that resonated, that was our rock, our base, our benchmark. And then into the 80s, it really began to change, of which I was a part of it, and particularly celebrity training, which really the personal training business, it went from the degrees in college for physical education to exercise science. So it all began to change in this moment in time. It really started in 1968 with the Dr. Cooper's book. And then in 1972, Frank Shorter wins the gold medal in the marathon, running kicks off. And then in 76, we had the Olympians and the perfect gymnastics score. At that time, then Bruce Jenner won the decathlon. Into the 80s, which clearly became personal training. This is the transformation that everyone looked at. That show. In fact, I showed John's before and after pictures with Geraldo Rivera on national TV later on for this physique change.
Well, hey, Dan, would
Yes.
you say that this was a pivotal moment in your career working with John Travolta, in this moment working with him and staying alive?
Absolutely. I think, and I've said this before, this is really what I know, because I didn't get out of LA. I mean, I said, yes, I would train people. And literally within a month, I was training Burt Reynolds, John Voight, Linda Evans, people of Dallas, all the TV shows of the 80s. Lisa Hartman, you saw a picture of it. It happened. But and so we were grateful for that. So what I did was interesting, and you'll appreciate this, Lala. It's like we all believe in truth. So what I spent a year in the 80s and developed what I call the method. It was basically the Isaacson method. I spent a year with a PhD just looking at all the untrained state, what you could do in the untrained state of the first 9 months of training. So we could read a movie script and then look at the movie script like Philadelphia. In fact, I have two posters behind me. The one to my left is the third film that we did with Tom Hanks. It's called Apollo 13. Mm-hmm. First movie that we did was Philadelphia, which was the weight loss program for him, which he won an Academy Award for. And then the second one was Forrest Gump, which he won an Academy Award for. And then the third one was that Apollo 13. And the inscription on the Apollo 13, the third movie, was weightless this time, because we always had to do movies that involved weight loss. And the other one is Billy Crystal's movie, which he was the very first person. And there's only one other person that had that kind of record with an actor of 35 years, training them for everything. And Billy's comment to me was, Dan, thanks for taking this blob of a guy, so to speak, turning me into Mr. Big. You are my friend, my trainer, and my deduction. So those two pictures, I think, really resonate the best of the 80s and 90s.
Absolutely. And then a big...
You know what, Dan? I don't think you don't toot your horn enough. You know, people don't realize that you've done all this, you know?
Well, hey, Elaine, that's what we're here today to do. We're tooting his horn. We're showing the world how he has...
We're tooting your horn.
How he has impacted our industry and the world.
Well, you know, it's funny. I always carry this with me as well, because, you know, we always have to go back to what happened. Where did it come from? And as you know, Greg, we talked about this. I always tell my trainers, work your way out of a job. I mean, that's the idea here. And in the workout I had this morning at my gym early in the morning, there was a man there was 86 working out, and we talked a bit. And I thought, wow, because I watched his routine and I was impressed. I thought, wow, he knows exactly what he's doing. And he went right through it. And I said to myself, you worked your way out of a job. And there he is. And it was so great. And then we shook hands when he left. I had never met him before. And I actually told him we're going to do this podcast, saying, oh, the Lanes, are you kidding me? So shout out to John, my new friend from the gym. But that's what it's all about. Yes. It's not about us. It's about it. Lala's a good example. We try to toot her horn because she's invaluable. But, you know, it's not about us. It's about the people we can help, the people they can help, and take it on. It's like a squat. If I'm going to show you how to do a squat, I'll show you how to do it. Then I'll ask you to train me doing a squat. And you have
really what we're doing, passing it on.
That's right. That's why Lala is just the greatest of all advocates for the fitness and health and wellness industry.
Yes.
Because of what she means to all of us.
And Dan, of course, you have impacted the world through your work in health and fitness. But then something big in 1985 happened, and it was the Time magazine article.
Oh, right.
And it coincided with the time that Gorbachev and Reagan were meeting in Reykjavik, Ireland, not Ireland, but Iceland. And tell us about this news article from Time magazine. And I'll scroll down here and pull this up while you tell us about the
Sure.
article.
This was written by Gail Sheehy, who also wrote the book Passages, which was quite the book in the 80s and 90s about different decades and the likenesses of those people in that decade, your 20s, your 30s, your 40s. We always reflect to what decade we're in. This one was really fascinating to me because, first of all, I had no idea we have a 2-page spread in Time magazine about personal training, and that's what it's all about. And so we have Linda Evans, who really was the icon. Well, first Reagan and Gorbachev on the cover was big, and that really started the wall coming down. Then we have Linda Evans, who is really the icon of the female person at that moment in time, because Jane Fonda and Linda Evans really showed you could be beautiful, fit, and healthy, and like Lala was 30 years before. And then we have David Hasselhoff, really, who went from Knight Rider, which we were training him for, into becoming the star in Baywatch, which became the most watched television show in the world. And then, of course, Danny Sullivan to the right, who did the spin and win in '85 to win the Indy 500. I was the first personal trainer really to coach that I know of, a Windy car driver at that moment in time, because when I was on the track there with others, they would laugh at me and say, "Oh, Dan, I guess you don't want to eat any hamburgers, do you? You don't eat that kind of stuff." And I said, "Well, no, I do." And that was Danny doing core work. And what's interesting in his spin and win, if you look at it, you should Google it, where he beat Mario Andretti. Core is critical to the race car driver, as is hydration and also joint flexibility. But particularly your core is really, because you got 500 miles that you're going. So you've got to have a strong core. And that, of course, Christopher Reeve, Superman. And Christopher Reeve also, I love what he said. We started training. He said, "Dan, I don't want to look like I've been to the gym. Superman has supernatural strength." So what we did was like CrossFit training. We did cross training. We did tennis. He did cycling. He did circuit training. He did swimming. And at that moment in time, that was in '86. So he did really multiple of activities, which was, again, started a whole craze.
And he looked the part of Superman, didn't he?
Yeah, he started that.
He definitely
First
did.
comic book movie that we ever did.
Yeah. Well, Dan, in these interviews, we like to, because I know last time, Lala, we did not talk about your famous V sit-ups that you do every day.
Right.
Part of your routine.
Oh, you didn't? Oh, well, I used to, my specialty was push-ups. Now with my bone-on-bone knee, I don't get down on the floor much, So, but I do my push-ups against the sink now. But my specialty is jackknives,
Yes.
where I lie on, a flat surface, and then I come up and, well, I can touch my toes are pointed, and I don't touch my toes, but I touch my ankles. And Greg, when we were down in Florida for when I got the Life Achievement Award with Jack and Dr. Ken Cooper, he was in my room, and I got up on the bed and I said, "Look, I'll prove to you that I can do this." And so I did, didn't I? Did 20 of them, didn't I?
You absolutely did.
So
I've
he's my witness.
Yes, I'm going to break that out here in one of the upcoming podcasts. We're going to show that. So, Elaine, do you do that every day?
Yes. Yeah.
That's a daily habit. Hey, Dan, we like to ask our guests your daily habits. What do you do to push your health and fitness forward on a daily basis?
Mine's a routine. I'll just tell you what I did this morning, like I always do. Get up out of bed, usually say prayers and on my knees, and I start on the side of the bed or couch and start to stretch, start to move. upper body, lower body, take it from head down or feet up, just start to move because we become so tight in the evening and during sleep. So from there, I will start drinking water. I drink amounts of water with a bit of lemon in it. And then I go to, from there, I do have a coffee that I put some MCT oils in for energy and for weight control, so to speak. And a scoop of collagen protein and drink that. And then I go back to my cycle inside my office and jump on for 30 minutes and keep that going. And then I usually head out to my total gym or something that I have in my home here and or to a gym like I did this morning. And I go through 6 days of workouts. There are 2-3 body parts each day. Or sometimes if I don't have time, I'll do the whole body with less repetitions. And that's pretty much it. Just keep that going. It's a routine and just don't get out.
Stretching is so important, especially as you get older. I'm finding the older I get, the more I need my stretching. So I stretch all the time. If I'm in the kitchen, I stretch. If I'm in, no matter where I am, I stretch. And it's because even in my mouth, I mean, even this is closing, and my eyes, I try to keep my eyes, because as I am 98, and things are closing in. But stretching really, really
Yes,
helps.
yes. Yeah, on that point, let's stay there for a minute, Greg, because she's so right as always. I used to love Jack's facial things. All
Oh
the things
yeah,
in his
the
face.
face
And
exercises.
you know what? It
He
works.
was
It works.
you
It works.
you have 55 muscles in your face, and they all need. And I remember when he first told me about the eyes. He said, now put your fingers here, right on this bone, and then open and close your eyes. And then he said, put your fingers on your eyebrows, and just not lightly, he said, don't push. And then he said, open and close. Now put them on the sides, and on here, this is your crow's feet.
Yeah.
And so you could feel the muscles working if you do this, but you don't push. You put them on very lightly.
Exactly
So
right.
that's one thing I learned about the face
That's
exercise.
great advice. I love that.
It's like
Yeah.
a lot you talk about this too. In terms of the food and water we eat, it's very simple. We think that this is hard. So yes, things have gotten to a point where it's more technical. There's certifications and all that, but the reality is, it doesn't take much to get in front of a mirror and begin just to stretch, watch yourself, your posture will improve. Get some cardiovascular work in. If you walk around the block rather than the cycle, that's fine. And then come back and realize that with the water, this is 16 ounces, so really you just need 4 of these a day. Drink it in between meals. It's a good idea. Take 5 times. Ask yourself, I'm going to eat at 7, 10, 12, 3, and 6. You got your times now. So you can eat 3 handfuls whenever you eat of colorful foods every day. Make it you got it. You got it.
I remember Jack when he'd go like this, and he'd go stretch this.
Yeah.
And go stretch this, and then he'd go like this.
Yeah.
But you don't think of your hands, you don't think about stretching your hands.
Right.
And you don't think about, just stretching a little bit. And he always, he believed in this, just lifting your head and then turning it this way and turning it that way very easily. Never jerk, never, ever jerk into your right. And I know you will both agree, no jerking.
Yeah, it's just a basic movement. The old saying, motion is lotion. Hey, Dan, as we wrap this up, what final words of advice would you have to our listeners?
Well, I think the final piece of advice is really do what you can every day, be active, and empower yourself by virtually being active every day. Remember, this is a basis of this is play. We forget there's a man named Dr. Stuart Brown who's iconic in the history of play. And we want to play. Fitness is grown out of play. Sports grown out of play. And let's remember that it's a playful time that we can have every day. We have 600 plus muscles, 200 bones, and we're in charge of them. You can manage your mind. So open up your mind, have cognitively look around, and be cognizant of the day. So I think those are some basic things I would recommend. And it's like, all the things that we've done, we can always share it with others. And bless
great
others with
advice.
information.
Yeah. Any final words from you, Elaine?
Well, I was going to ask Dan, did we mention his book that he wrote?
Tell us all about that, Dan.
No, I did write a book, actually. It's called The Equation. I did it with Dr.
Yes.
Payne, who also Elaine knows. And The Equation is an interesting book because it's just simple. When we got done with it, we thought, well, the idea was it was like several hundred pages, and we could have written it in 5 pages. The body is an equation.
Yes.
What you put in, you have to take out. And it's a stream, it's a stream of water. If you put a log in it, it gets clogged up, doesn't work. Take the clog out. And exercise and healthy eating does that. It takes the debris out of your day. So remember, I think, and pass it on. And it's like, and do something, that hasn't been done before. One of the things that we did as an example, we talked about this, Greg.
And I also want to mention, I don't want to interrupt, but you are in our book a lot in Pride and Discipline. And it's there we are. And you'll find a lot of little tidbits that Dan has to say in there too.
Yes.
I think it's you can do things that haven't been done before. We did that. Jack and Elaine have done that. Craig does that. And many people in our field does that. So and do things that culturally make a change. I was a celebrity judge. I forgot to tell you this, Greg, and Miss USA, and with Gordon Cooper, one of the first astronauts, Jackie Joyner Kersey and others, and we were the first group that actually elected an African-American first Miss USA, which has never been done before. Those kinds of things in life are what you want to do. Things that haven't been done that give people a boost. I think God wants us to do things to help others. So I'll leave everybody with that.
Absolutely. Hey, Dan, where can our listeners find out more about you, and where can they get your book?
Well, isaacsonfitness.com you can go to. And I think that's the best place to go, and anything there. And if not, you can certainly give them out my information, Greg, however you want to do that. But I'm available to anyone.
Right, I will put that. I'll add that into the recording here. Any
Great.
final words, Elaine?
No, just keep moving.
I'm on it.